Welcome back, everyone, to this new episode that is simply entitled London, I'm Back. Hey guys, this is April, and I am your host for this podcast, The Solo Chronicles. And in this episode, I'll be talking about my travel back to London earlier this year, which I so looked forward to. I literally started planning this trip as soon as I got back from Japan last September. So, for those that don't know, I actually, for a little bit, lived in London during COVID, where I was finishing up my master's program. And even though my program started online, I eventually, as an international student, had to make my way over to finish up that program. So I ended up flying, like I said, during COVID. COVID literally disrupted everyone's lives. So there was there was a lot that was halted. I don't care what you had planned, whether it was weddings, whether it was vacations, anything that you had planned, your life literally stopped because of COVID. So around the early part of 2021, the university basically said, shout out to the University of Westminster. Yay. But anyway, um the university basically said, even though we're going to be having classes online, we're still we're still going to need people to, fly over, especially if you was an international student, fly over to the country. So I got on a plane, flew over, and of course, even though there was 6 feet distance still in play, nothing was open. You couldn't go out and enjoy anything. You could walk past stuff such as the London Eye, which is what I did, but you couldn't, you know, go and visit anywhere, like the Tower of London, none of that. So when I got back from Tokyo last year, I says, I'm gonna start planning my trip back to London because I felt like I was robbed of, doing stuff because of COVID. So I planned my trip. It doesn't take me a long time to plan a trip because I usually, like I said in the Tokyo episode, I usually have an itinerary of what I want to do every day. I don't need to go somewhere and be there for like weeks. Give me a good like 5 days and I'm good. So I kind of planned out like where I wanted to stay, which I ended up staying in Lewisham, which I was pronouncing as Lewisham. um, I knew every day what I wanted to do once I got there. So, of course, flying over, it was like 13, 14 hours, but I was so excited to get there. I don't think I really slept good on the plane, which normally who does? I don't care if it's like overnight flight or just a few hours flight. Who sleeps good on the plane? But I couldn't sleep because I was excited. So, get over to London. And I will say this for anybody that's thinking about traveling to London, please invest in an Oyster card. I still have my Oyster card from when I was over there in 2021, and it was still valid up until, like I said, when I flew over earlier this year. So I never rode the tube or the subway, as the subway system as we say here. I literally did everything on the bus. I Wherever I needed to go, I did it on the bus. If I couldn't walk to it, I was gonna pay that £1.75 and get on the bus. And that's the good thing about, the bus system. Their transportation system, period, is great. If you don't want to do the tube stations, you can always do the bus. If you don't want to do the bus, you can always do like the train. So, or taxis or Ubers. It's just there's a way to get around London. So my first stop, and I mean, after like, if you take away the time that it took for me to travel over there, I technically had like 5 days to do what I needed to do. So my first day, of course, it was raining. Can't be in London without London rain. Matter of fact, It rained every day I was there. It was like a flashback to Tokyo when the last 2 days of my trip, it rained. So me and rain have a very close relationship. So anyways, I didn't care. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give me an umbrella and I'm gonna still go out and do what I need to do because everything was open and I was gonna take part in everything. So of course my first trip, I just wanted to go down and just be near like the Big Ben and Parliament, and guys, it was crazy packed. Even though it was raining, it was crazy. It was so packed between the London Eye across the bridge and going towards going towards Big Ben. It was packed, but I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I was like, because you know what? Most people probably had to rebook or redo their trip because it was canceled because again of COVID. So I ended up just walking around, um, around that area. I walked over to the London Eye because I wanted to kind of get a feel of how far I would have to walk from the bus stop that I got off at. So I walked to the London Eye just to kind of see, you know, the line for one, if there was a line, because I was gonna go do other things, and then I was gonna push that back to like getting on the London Eye. I kind of wanted that to be like kind of the close to the last thing that I did before I flew out of London. But anyways, so I ended up walking um to Big Ben, which thank goodness it was, it was visible because when I stayed in London for that brief time, it was under renovation. You heard Big Ben, but you couldn't see it because of all the scaffolding. So I'm standing there looking at this clock, like, okay, I love you, and you're now one of my like favorite iconic uh tourist attraction thingies. So ended up walking from there. Then I walked over, and this was just a fluke moment. Like I had no intention of doing this, but I ended up walking and following a crowd, and it was a line going into the Westminster Abbey. And I says, I'm gonna go into Westminster Abbey. Now, like I said, Westminster Abbey was not on my bucket list of things to do. I was just gonna walk past it and be done. But I am so glad that I went in and paid the money to go in there. When I tell you, that whole cathedral is absolutely beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful. You know, it's just you walk in there and you're walking through doors that royalty like walk through. And that's what was absolutely just mind blowing. I chose to do I got headphones, but I chose to do the individual tour instead of doing a group because there were like groups. You could get a group tour, but I chose individual because I wanted to go at my own pace. I didn't want to go at go of the pace of somebody else that was guiding the tour, if that makes sense. I mean, to each his own. I just preferred to do that. You could sit in, and this is no joke, you saw people literally sitting in the chairs or the pews, and they're looking up at the ceiling because the ceiling itself is an absolute work of art. Yeah. So I enjoyed Westminster Abbey. And if I'm not mistaken, I says, "Oh my gosh, I'm, walking down, I'm walking down this aisle that Queen Elizabeth, who I absolutely love, walked down." It's like I felt like I was the only person in there because I was just so blown away. And it was just like the history behind, the different statues that were in there, the different just everything that that was like historic and in reference to the royalty was being talked about through the headsets. You're getting a straight history. That cathedral is literally a history book. You don't even have to have somebody write it and write down anything and put it on paper. All you need is just to walk in there and just listen to the history. That's all you have to do. So that was kind of like my first day. And then I ended up walking towards. Now, I did walk towards Buckingham Palace when I lived there, even though um stuff like I said was shut down. But this time I was like, oh, I'm gonna walk to Buckingham Palace because the last time I was there, Queen Elizabeth didn't invite me for tea. So I was so convinced that Prince Charles, or now King Charles, is gonna invite me for tea. Well, I get to the gate, and this is a hilarious story. I get to the gate as first off, before you even get to Buckingham Palace, you walking down the mall. That's what they call it. You're literally looking at Buckingham Palace as you're walking down. It's called the mall, but it's like this long, 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 like parkish area, or if the or street. So as you're walking, you're literally looking at just the beautiful greenery. You have the beautiful geese or swans that are around there. I saw people feeding squirrels, which I would never do, especially here in the United States, because I know how vicious those squirrels can get, and I was not trying to feed a squirrel so that my hands can be taken off. But once I get to the gate, because I don't stop at Starbucks, so I get to the gate of Buckingham Palace, and I'm literally hanging on the gate like I'm literally gonna be let into the gate. No joke. So you see people just from all over the world here at Buckingham Palace because I don't know if there was an announcement or something saying that King Charles was gonna be at Buckingham Palace or he was gonna be passing through or whatever. It was just like you had so many people, and then too, you seeing the changing of the guards. Um, it was just amazing. So I'm standing on the gate and I'm literally on the gate, like looking at this one police officer, like, yeah, I'm here to see King Charles, and you need to let me in because I'm pretty sure he's expecting me. And the funny part is our interaction was so hilarious. The the special police officer, I just call him police officer, he couldn't do nothing but laugh, but he tells me, he says, ma'am, he walks over to me, he says, ma'am, can I help you? And I go, yes, I'm waiting for King Charles. And he says, unfortunately, his majesty is not in. And I'm like, are you sure? Because I'm positive that he's here. So it was like, he says, no, I'm positive. He's not he's not in Buckingham Palace today. Which, just a side note, this was probably around the time or after it was announced that King Charles had been diagnosed with cancer and that he was having chemotherapy. So his visibility was very limited, especially when I got there because I went towards the end of February, early March. So it was, and I think that's what drew a lot of people to Buckingham Palace. I mean, any other time people are going to go to Buckingham Palace because like I said, you think about Queen Elizabeth, you think about then Prince Charles, the Prince and Princess of Wales, their children. So of course people want to go there and just see where the royal family, where they actually go for work or where they reside or whatever. So, I was just like, okay, I'm going to wait because I know he's going to come. And I actually did a video where I'm outside of Buckingham Palace and I'm holding my Starbucks coffee and I'm like, I'm gonna wait for King Charles because I know he's coming and he's gonna invite me for tea. I just thought that just was so hilarious. So long story short, after like standing out there for like almost an hour, I really realized that okay, King Charles isn't coming today. And I will tell anybody that's gonna visit London, the best way to know when His Majesty is in and at Buckingham Palace is look for the flag that flies above at the very top on the flagpole. There's a flag that lets you know that he's not in, and there's a flag to let you know that he is in residence. So I didn't pay attention to that flag until after I had been there a long time. So that was kind of like my whole day, kind of my whole full first day of being out. I ended up walking along the Thames, which I would highly recommend to anybody because you see so many different people mingling. I mean, yeah, true enough, you have you know, the London Eye, but there's other things that you can see as well. There's one area which I really enjoy going to, and I actually went there like about three, four times in my time of vacation in there. It's a place where it looks like a whole entire like stretch of a building that's got nothing but graffiti all over it. But actually, if you really look at it, it's artwork, and you see people that are skateboarding, and that's like their little area that they skateboard at, and it's just to sit back and watch them do their thing on those skateboards. Because I'm gonna tell you, I've been on a skateboard, and I went one way and my shoe went another way, so there's that. But to see these guys and girls out there skateboarding and just living their best life, especially surrounded by that graffiti that is actually art, is is so cool. So I ended up also going to St. Paul's Cathedral. Now that's where Prince Charles and Princess Diana got married. And I went in there again, I did a tour, but I did an individual tour because that's what I wanted to do. Once I got in and started listening to the history and everything, I walked up to one of the um I guess these people are considered greeters. I'm not for sure what exactly their position is, but they are, if you have any questions about anything or you want information on something, that's what they're there for. Kind of give you like a little, if you had a question about a piece of artwork that you might see there in St. Paul's, they can tell you a little bit about it. I walked up to the one lady and I says, I would like to go, or where exactly is it that Queen Elizabeth and mainly King Charles sit? And she literally took me right to the very spot. I was like, thank you. That's all I need. And I just stood there with my hands on the little wooden area where like they would rest their hat or their purse on. And I just stood there, taking it all in. Yep. And then I went on my happy little way. Now, I will say with St. Paul Cathedral, once you do the little tour or you walk around or whatever and just look at everything, at the very end, it is a challenge. And it's totally up to you if you want to do it. I did it and I regretted it once I got to the very top. I started second guessing my life choices. There's stairs that take you up to the very tip top of St. Paul's Cathedral, and you go to the top and you get to see, it's almost like you see London in a whole 360. I started up those stairs, and they literally tell you, like, before you even walk through the doors to go to the stairs, it tells you, there's a sign that tells you how many stairs there is. Don't quote me, I could be wrong, but I think altogether from the ground floor all the way up to the very top, I think it said 240 stairs or 250. I could be totally wrong, but it's a lot of stairs. And you're like, there's no elevators going up or down. And it was just, I said, what was I thinking? And it didn't even register as to what I had got myself into until I was literally halfway up and there was no way of coming out. So coming down or coming out or whatever. So you seen people, like people, those of us that were going up was coming across those that were going down. And you seen those going down giving all of us a thumbs up, like you're almost there, but you still got like a ton of like stairs still left to go. But once I got to the top, oh my gosh. I says, wow. It's almost like I said, I lived in London. I've been around London. I was seeing parts of London even on this visit, but getting to the very top of St. Paul's Cathedral and just seeing London to me was almost like experiencing it at brand new differently. You know what I mean? So I, I even though I was winded and I felt like I was going into cardiac arrest, it was just an awe-inspiring like experience for me. And also, I hope I'm not getting it mixed up, but I think with St. Paul's Cathedral, you could actually go down into the crypt part of the cathedral, and that's where you see where all of royalty is like buried. You see their headstones. Yeah, most people would look at that as being eerie, but it was so fascinating because there were people that were down there buried in that crypt that I had never even heard of at all. And the artwork on that was down there was even more phenomenal. I think I spent more time down in the crypt area of St. Paul's Cathedral than I did upstairs. I don't know, it just felt like I spent more time down there because it's like who even has an area like this underneath a huge church that nobody. I mean, it was just like who has something like that. I've never known any other place that has something like that, and it is very fascinating. From there, I ended up there was so much I did. Is Some of the stuff is just like, oh my gosh, what did I do? So I did St. Paul's Cathedral, which I would recommend to anybody. Just be cautious of those stairs because they can really be a killer. Make sure you're healthy. And if you're healthy, make sure you got water. Oh, and what I like too about that is before you actually get to the very tip part of St. Paul's Cathedral, there's an area they call the Whisper area, and it's at the top where you could literally hear people whispering. That's just how much the echo in the cathedral is. Like I heard people that were standing at the very back where you go to pay to get in. I heard them up at the top. That's just how amazing that was. I was blown away by it. So yeah. So I did that. I and this is what now before, of course, anybody that knows me knows I love the Tower Bridge, the London Tower Bridge. I love that. I can walk back and forth across that bridge all day, every day, if I was allowed to. Just because, and that's along the towns. That's over there by the Shard, um, and some other, monuments that you can see from downtown. But I ended up finally, going into the London Tower. I think that's what it's called. And I would recommend that to anyone that's going over to England. You have to do that because that's an experience of a lifetime that I know for a fact I probably will never have again. And I say to definitely do that if you don't do anything else in London because you walk in and if you want to know the history of England, period, and a monarch, that's where you have to go to get that very beginning. I'm going to tell you, there's stuff that I found out about. Oh my gosh, what's the king? He had the six wives. King Henry. Yes. To go through each nook and cranny of, the Tower of London. Oh, oh my gosh. There's too much history. I probably didn't even scratch the surface of half of the history that's there. But for me, of doing highlight of doing that activity for the day, and I think I did that. I want to say maybe the fourth day I was there, and the highlight for that day for me was being able to see. an actual beef eater, and they're part of the monarch's military. But to see them up close, and they were so nice and just so warm and welcoming, but stern. And of course, they're Britain's military, so you give them the respect. But you could take a picture of them, and they never said, "Okay, hurry up, move along." There were changing of the guards out that were within the area. And this was right before I went to see the crown jewels. So you got to see I got to see that. And then the ultimate highlight, and this is just a forewarning for anyone that actually does this, goes to the Tower of London. Um, when you go to see the crown jewels, the actual crown jewels, the ones that King Charles wore on his coronation, when before you walk in, they tell you no pictures. So just be prepared for that, because there is no snapping, snap, snap. They were like, no, right at the door before you even step your foot into the hallway area of the building. No cameras. I walked in, and to be that close to everything that King Charles touched, that Queen Elizabeth touched, that her father touched and wore, was, my mouth stayed open that whole entire time. And you're only in there, it's totally up to you how you do it. But I know it took me to go through the whole entire exhibit. It's probably like 15, 20 minutes. So that's how long it took me to go through. It's really quick, actually. It's really, really quick. Unless you got, because I mean, you did have people that wanted to just stand there and stare, but they would tell you you have to move along because there's people behind you, that are like trying to see what you're seeing. And after I did that, oh, I was set. I was like, wow, can check that off my bucket list, because I can say that I've seen jewels that have been on royalty. I can't say that enough. So yes, it was that was just the highlight of that day. So like I said earlier, I wanted to make going on to London Eye kind of the last thing that I did before, my trip in London ended. I ended up going on the London Eye. And believe it or not, I was able to just go in, get in line. Well, not go in because you're outside, but I was able to get in line, and I think I waited maybe 10 minutes. Maybe. Even though it was mad crazy packed, that line, I swear it was moving. And once you go, like I said, I was kind of nervous because you're in this bubble with a few other people and you're going in circles. So it's a Ferris wheel. It's a Ferris wheel. That's exactly what it is, a Ferris wheel. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. But once it starts moving, it moves like, I wouldn't say it moves slow, but I wouldn't say it moves quick, because you're given enough time to just take in all the surroundings that you're going to be seeing as the higher you go up. So the higher you went, the more stuff you can see from a distance. Like, you had a great view of everything: St. Paul's Cathedral, Big Ben, Parliament, um, Westminster Abbey, like I said, the Shard. Uh, it just you I can't name the two bridges, that the one bridge that takes you right straight directly to St. Paul's Cathedral. I can't think of the name of that bridge, but you can see that on the London Eye. You can see where there's an area where you can actually go and not get up close, but you can get up close and see the King's Guard and horses. You can see that area where they have trooping of the colors, the little parade, that little area before they head to Buckingham Palace. So you can see that from the London Eye. It it was awesome, and I met so many amazing people. And you know what? That's the one thing I think for me that helps me like really enjoy my trip is when I can meet people that are from a different part of the world. I met so many amazing people. Whether they were from France, I met a few people that were actually from America. I met some people that were from Germany, Italy, China. So it's like that's what I enjoyed, that it was I got to mix and mingle with so many like amazing people from different parts of the world that is not similar to mine. And I think that's what makes solo adventures amazing, because you're forced to kind of mingle and get to interact with others, so yeah, so we were all like taking pictures of each other and stuff like that. So it was a fun trip. It was really, really a fun trip. And I want to say my last day, of course it was raining, of course, but I still ventured out. I wanted to go early because I wanted to get back to my Airbnb just so I could kind of relax and pack up my stuff before I left. I ended up, because I definitely, I know, like I said, I did the London Eye, I did St. Paul's Cathedral, I did Westminster, I did Buckingham Palace, which I ended up walking back past Buckingham Palace. Because I really was trying to be Prince Charles, King Charles's BFF and have tea. So yeah, but there was another part. Oh, there was somewhere else I went to, and forgive me if I don't remember exactly where it was at, but it was a museum where you saw different different items that were part of royal history. And you could see like the different outfits of what royalty used to wear back in 1600s and stuff like that. Oh, I wish I could remember where that was at. But um if anybody, knows where that's at, please definitely, know, shoot me a message. But there you could see you saw replicas of the crown jewels that I actually got to see in person, but you saw replicas of what the British crown jewels look like. And there was one part, and this tugged at my heart because I really honestly, and nothing against King Charles, nothing against any other royal families out there, but there was a portrait of Queen Elizabeth II. And this picture was massive. I'm not sure if it was a photo or if it was a painting. I want to say it was a painting, but it was a huge painting or picture of Queen Elizabeth, and and it shows her standing. I want to say the background was her standing at Westminster Abbey. And it's like this pretty colors of red. She just looked beautiful. And I was so taken aback by it. I literally started tearing up because it's just like there'll never be another monarch like her, ever, ever. And that portrait just lets you know how much. Wow, once you look at it, you're like, wow, I really do miss her, because we will never see, or at least I know I'll never see another individual like that in my lifetime. That, my friend, is my experience on my trip to London earlier this year. Stay tuned for next week's episode where I talk about going for a hike. And it was the best hike ever, with me leaving California really soon. I want to try to experience as much of California as much as I can before I leave. And this hike was interesting because I hiked up to the Hollywood sign, and apparently tourists decided to follow me. It was interesting, but it was so fun and so rewarding. So stay tuned for that. Have a great rest of the day, my moonbeams. Bye.